Well, good afternoon, everyone in attendance. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us and cover this webinar with you. To our friends on the West Coast, good morning. My name is Samir Date. I am the Sales Director with Infolob Solutions, and it's my pleasure to welcome you. Today, we're going to be covering eBusiness Suite on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. We're going to be, over the course of the next hour, we'll be talking about the application migration approach, the tooling, the elasticity that you can see from a demand model structure. So you're going to see features like the robust security that it'll have, along with the DBA as a service. We're even going to talk about EBS's Cloud Manager, how that relates to Oracle Cloud Guard, Autonomous Data Guard for EBS databases. We'll talk about the ROI and what that transition would look like for you, and as well as what the capacity planning for your current data center would look like with the 5-year TCO model to give it a little bit more context. Throughout this particular webinar, we're going to have a few stops where we'll be interacting with you via polling questions. Highly encourage you to participate in that. It makes this a lot more feasible of an approach. And then at the very end, we will have a Q&A session for those that have a couple of questions from the content that you see today. During the presentation itself, you also have the chat function where if you have a question that arises, please feel free to post it there. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the folks that will be leading you through the content today, our Cloud Practice Leader, Brent Seama, and our Enterprise Cloud Architect, Javid Ur Rahaman.
Hi, everybody. It's Brent Seama. Javid, just go back one slide real quick. I'm glad everyone could join. I see some names I recognize and some that are new. So welcome to the call. This is the second webinar in a series. Late December, we did one around cloud migration planning. So this is the second one in the list. And one of the things that we did on both of these, we did a little survey during registration, which the feedback we got was positive. This is pure feedback that's validates some industry analyst data. On the last one of the main questions that was interesting was of your application that are installed, how old is your server infrastructure? And close to 60% of the respondents said that our server infrastructure is more than 5 years old. So the one that caught my attention this time was just around EBS version. So 50% of you said you haven't planned the upgrade to 12.2 yet, and some are in the stages of planning it. So one of the reasons I asked that question is that's one of the risks in the process, that making sure that you can be on a supported version. We'll cover a little bit of that in this session. But I'm glad everyone could join. We'll cover a little bit around migration planning, some tooling accelerators, and cloud capacity planning. I'll be taking you through that first section, and then Javid will bring it home with the other two. So, your EBS users and owners, it's the single source of truth for organizations for financials, HR, in supply chain. You all know this. What's important that we've seen in these projects is that some customers will want to move to SaaS, and some will want to hang on to what you've developed. So EBS is what it's what you own, it's what you've customized, and what you've integrated. And there are quite a bit of business logic built in that's tailored to your organization, and quite a bit of data that would need moved. So we help people through either route, going to SaaS or hanging on to your app and moving it into cloud infrastructure. Everything in this webinar is tailored towards keeping it in your infrastructure and moving it to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So Java, go ahead and advance a couple slides. One of the things that we compared, one more please, is what's the difference between, keeping EBS on-prem, moving it to infrastructure as a service, and in this case, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or moving to SaaS. So just, some of the criteria that we've seen just around moving to IaaS, you've probably heard around, OpEx versus CapEx model. As far as going from IaaS to SaaS, you've invested in licensing. One way to keep that both on the database side and the application side is move those things over to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. There are some advantages of the infrastructure tools that Oracle offers. High security, enterprise security built into the infrastructure, performance scalability, and flexibility on using other tools. So obviously the slide is tailored towards what are the benefits of IaaS, but it does give you the predictability. It gives you the ability to get out of the data center business, not have to worry about refreshing hardware every 3 to 5 years. And it also gives you the ability to take advantage of new network security features that come out month to month or quarter to quarter with Oracle. One of those that some of our customers have taken advantage of in the last couple of years is a web application firewall. So instead of bringing your own router features and firewall features like security lists, you can build some of that into your Oracle Cloud Infrastructure architecture. From a migration planning standpoint, we covered a couple of these things on the last session, but Gartner put out a rationale about 10 years ago around what do you consider when moving your apps to the cloud, and primarily what we're going to focus on is you're going to either rehost or replatform when you're moving to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. You could also refactor or re-architect to a kind of container-based mode, or you could repurchase and replace moving to a SaaS situation. But we're going to focus on rehosting and replatforming. What we do from a roadmap planning standpoint is look at those things. So this is our model, and the steps that we would go through from an assessment perspective or helping customers through roadmap strategy, determining which route is the best for you, or is there a staged approach. If we look at specifically replatforming, you can go ahead and advance, Javid. We would typically go through a assessment to get a lay of the land related to number of environments, what your essentially application, what your stack looks like, what your system and storage looks like, what your platform looks like, your middleware and your applications. So we would use that to determine what's the cloud readiness status of your stack, and then look at the number of environments that you would be using in the new environment, or if you want to add another test environment or training environment or a DR environment, and then also the number of applications over and above EBS, and then the number of modules within EBS that you would be moving. So we would go through our structured approach. So you can go ahead and move, Javid, to do that. And in some cases, we would break things down into waves, or what Oracle would call workloads, and move things over in batches and work that into the project plan. The project plan or scheduling would be tailored to individual customers. And what we would recommend is doing it based on the cycle. You can advance, Javid, that makes sense for your organization. So you may have constraints around when you can go live during the year. It may be based on your fiscal cycles. It may be, you know, based on when your customers are at peak, and maybe based on, you know, other things. But typically what we find is there are certain times of the year that are most likely better for go live, and it may be tied to quarterly you know, fiscal quarters. Anyway, we kind of covered this. You know, things you really need to consider, you know, when you're doing your project planning is, you know, the number of modules, environments, what other applications, and then, you know, just the arrangement of testing cycles. So usually people will want to go through 2 to 3 testing cycles when moving EBS over, and usually we'll do that around the environment. So we'll go through integration testing in dev a couple times, and then once we get to test, we'll finish that out and start UAT, and then probably go through a second set of UAT in prod. But that again is all, you know, specific to your situation. The next page, what we'd like to do is get your input. You know, specific to you know, moving EBS over to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. You know, what we're asking is, would it be more costly to run there or on other cloud service providers? So we're asking, is it more costly to run it on Oracle? So Samir, if you could bring up the poll.
There we go. Everyone, you should have the poll question before you now. There we are.
So the majority answered that no, it's not more costly to run on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So Javid, we can transition to you, and then I'll jump back in a couple places.
Thank you, Brent. Oh, I think this slide tells you about a general a business use case where large EBS environments moves and have a cloud transformation from on-prem to the cloud. So if you see the buckets, I just mentioned the challenges, what major EBS environments, major EBS customers going through. They run on a legacy platform if they're running on a Solaris, Spark, or any AX kind of platform, and they cannot scale up the compute, they cannot scale up the storage unless they put an order with the vendor, and that goes through a huge purchase cycle. Then high cost of technical and functional support, because these platforms are legacy, and there are only less, I mean, very experienced pool is very limited. So you may end up paying high technical and support, functional support, due to the whatever the versions you are currently running. So and the third one is a lack of flexibility and agility in support. So those versions could be old. You might be constrained to a limited. I mean, you might be limited to not to upgrade those versions. I mean, because of underlying infrastructures, and you have your support constraints are very, I mean, you have challenges on a support constraint. So every version brings a new features, but it breaks something. So the other one is a multiple vendors. You might be having multiple vendors to support infrastructure, application, and integrations. And the last one, but not least, high cost of upcoming tech refresh. So every legacy infrastructure comes with at least 30 to 40% cost is going to go on a hardware refresh, because you might be retiring your legacy hardware to revamp the new one. So these are the typical challenges where we come across from past 20 years. I just sliced down this cost into multiple buckets. Data center and operational cost comes around 40%. Then the current current AMS will be 20, then licenses 15, security 10, and infra upgrade cost you 15%. So if you transform this cost to the cloud OpEx, you will directly have a 50% saving. So you're not going to spend these buckets. So this will go into the less number of buckets in cloud. Your CapEx will be converted into OpEx. You will have a 15% savings in the cloud OpEx. Then the security, you may not be compromising in security. You might be spending same amount in the cloud, but cloud gives them more agility and it gives better great security features with the same cost. So I do recommend the customers do not compromise on security budgeting. You keep the same or increase if possible. And licenses are going to be optimized. I think in the left bucket it is 15%. If you see in right, those are 10%. So these licenses could be, you might be moving away from the you might be using a bring your own licenses, or you may have the option to negotiate with the Oracle rep or a partner to convert those licenses into subscription-based licenses, where you will have an option to save that 5%. So that totally depends on how many number of environments you have. Are you going to consolidate those licenses on Oracle Cloud with the different options what Oracle provides in BareMetal and PaaS? So the last one is annual maintenance agreement. You may not be required to have a multiple vendors to support your AMS. You can consolidate many to some of them. Like 4 to 3 or 4 to 1 if that works out well. So that's how I slice them in. This is a typical slicing and saving. So you have a 50% savings, and this 50% saving, you have an option as a CXOs or CIOs and CEOs or senior directors. This 50% cost can go to modernize your EBS. So you can invest this back into the modernizing your current EBS database workloads to latest and latest, which is 12.2.10 for the application release, and the underlying database from normal RAC to RAC on OCA or XSES on OCA. So you definitely have plenty of budget to reinvest back without going to the finance team to get a more spending. So I'm moving to the second one. So application investment. So application does not have much changes in the licensing. So you will be using a per user or perpetual licenses, same like what you have currently. So no changes in the application license. But application monitoring, you might be using a multiple monitoring tool currently. Nagios or a set of, it could be Enterprise Manager along with the Nagios and then a couple of more. But in OCI, you can still bring your OEM licenses on a VM compute, and you can modernize, keep modernizing your monitoring framework on OMC. OMC is nothing but Oracle Management Cloud, which Oracle recommends going forward for any IaaS and PaaS workloads. So that is embedded with AI and ML. So it is more modernized. If customer wants to build this kind of platform on Oracle for their enterprise application, so they will end up spending a lot of money rather they adopt OMC, which will have enhancement every month and every quarter as per the customer driven approach with which Oracle drives internally from the product aspect. So every customer recommends we need this kind of features on OMC that goes through multiple funnels and internal product evaluations, and then that comes to the customer directly without spending any capex. So it will be offered out of the box on OMC, and OMC can manage entire workloads of EBS starting from the DBAS and application and integration and security. I think the last but not least, customer might be spending application load balancers on demand scaling of compute on their current environments or on-prem data centers. So that goes to a different, multiple challenges. They can't scale up the compute because they do not have underlying infrastructure does not support the scaling up. So, but on cloud, you definitely have an option to use on-demand compute for any workloads to spin up new instance for your project requirement, that might stay for a couple of months or a couple of quarters. And application load balancer will replace your legacy hardware load balancer. So that's again a savings from capex to opex. So I typically see this 50% savings when you move from application, from the application investment model aspect. So it's a great saving. Again, this case is going to change customer to customer based on their inventory and usage. Yeah, I think the time to have a poll question too, Samir.
Everyone, you should have your polling questions before you now.
Okay, so I think major participants was I think December 2021, which is correct. December 24 is so the correct one is December 2021. Maybe they could have extended 20 is. So I will leave this question answer back to the Brent when we have a summary. So yeah, let me move forward.
That's good to see, Javid.
Yes, I think they most of them are aware of this roadmap, so it is good. They're precisely following Oracle nodes. So yes, these are the correct facts. Though I think Premier supports through 2021. So I think every customer, most of the customers, those who are running on 12.1, must have a plan to transition to either to 12.2 or transition to SaaS, whichever is appropriate. 12.2 is going to be another couple of years from now, approximately 10 years. So I recommend to upgrade 12.2 as soon as it can, and at least plan the transition in this year. And Infolob could be will be happy to glad to help you, to assist you to the move to the 12.2 release when the customers are ready. Yes, so you have 10 more years. So 12.2 has a long-term, it's a long-term release. So 10 years are there to innovate. So I think this is pretty much enough to every customer should consider moving, during this next couple of months, and move on to 12.2 and leverage this next decade innovations what Oracle gives by upgrading REPs. Yes, I think the 19C, Oracle was been buzzing this from a couple of quarters. So I think starting 19C has been certified with the 12.1 and 12.2, both the releases. So it has so this is a long-term release. So like 21, which is an innovation release, which is going to stay for three years. So, but moving to 19C for any customer will give an edge to stay on this release for next at least 7 to 8 years, along with their 12.2. So I recommend customers to adopt 12.2 along with the 19C and stay on a long-term both application and database aspects. Stay on this release, keep getting the updates from Oracle as they keep innovating the stack, either on most likely on the cloud, because Oracle is going to release 19C is going to be the cloud only release, but on-prem releases are going to follow at 2 quarters with a delay. But cloud has an ability to get. Cloud is the first release for 19C going forward. So starting 20 or 21C, Oracle is going to deprecate non-container architecture. So along with the 19C, the most recommended approach is to use multi-tenancy with the 19C, or you can still use a non-container architecture in 19C, but it is better to approach multi-tenancy in 19C before next release strikes, which is a 23C, which is a long-term release again after 3 years. So by the time you get a next long-term release, which is 23C, you are already on a multi-tenancy architecture, and upgrade will be a seamless for many of the customers, those who are on multi-tenancy and with the 19C. Again, OC at DBAS is going to be the first platform which gets the 19C patches, 19C REPs, 19C security patches. So you don't need to worry about the patching. So patching is out of the box on a DBAS console. You just need to take a decision whether to apply those patches without having a rigorous planning. So if you have a data guard, you can do a data guard first patches and then bring that to a production, so which is seamless, which reduces the strain and stress on the DBA team and again on the platform and infrastructure team as well. This is a cloud availability topology. Oracle by default has a three availability domains. So initially you can pick if you are leveraging DBAS rack, you have an option to spin off the rack node from each of the availability domain and still have a high availability stuff. So it is in a topology architecture which defaults a spin of any service within the VCN, but you can pick any of the availability domain as per your architectures. So we recommend to use 81 and 82 to start with if you are in a 2-node rack, or if it's a 3, then you can spin up the rack compute node across three availability domains and still service the high availability architecture. And connectivity, you can start leveraging the VPN. VPN can be set up in a couple of days. Start moving your dev and test workloads, then figure out a fast connect. Fast connect is a thick connection. It has most likely many customers might be having a fast connect already with your vendor, whoever is currently supporting. So you need to contact and leverage your partner community and figure out what is the fast connect option, and fast connect will can be roll over within less than 3 to 4 weeks based on the availability for all your data centers currently being located. So it is something you need to work with the partner and Oracle to figure out the best connectivity path. But until that, you can leverage a VPN and start moving your non-cloud workloads. So cloud capacity planning. So I think this is a ramp up, cloud subscription ramp up. So I think initially you might start with a dev ramp up. Brent, do you want to jump in and give some orientation on this slide?
Yeah. So again, this goes back to the project planning. Some customers will have 2 or 3 environments. Some may have more or want to add more during the project. So typically what we see is the dev cycle that goes through, setting up the tenancy, setting up the initial infrastructure within the tenancy, and adding a dev environment. Could be from 2 months to 6 months, depending on the cycle with the customer and the complexity. So, but after that, moving from there through the test environment, getting through all of SAT and getting through UAT, you're going through a couple months cycle there before you get into prod, and then doing your training and UAT and prod before go live. So from a ease standpoint, we would typically see that there would be 1 or 2 subscription spends on the cloud side. One, right at the beginning of the project start, and then one where we ramp up to other environments. And usually, that's in the 2 to 6 month time frame when you would do your ramp up spend on the cloud subscription.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Yeah, so this is the cloud subscription wrap up. So if you see year 1, you will start with a less consumption. So and you will reach a consistent consumption state by middle of the year, or based on your project approach. So it is going to be different for each customer. So this is only a sample orientation, but it might kick off in April. It might kick off in July. So once you achieve a stable, consistent costing state, so that's gonna stay for all the rest of the months, the rest of the years, unless there is a change in your consumption model. So this is going to be typical ramp up model for year 1, and year 2 to year 4, year 5 will have a consistent cost structure.
And Javid, can you review how many environments this is based on, and how many utility servers in addition to your EBS stack?
Yeah, so this cost orientation was given in three environments. So we took only test, dev, and prod. So we haven't considered other environments in the cost model. However, those can be added, and during the one-to-one discussion, we can come up with a cost model. We need to get an inventory of the customer sizing. Then this cost model can be derived based on number of instances customer has and what's an approach they wants to go. It could be 2 months, it could be 3 months based on the size. So this need not be a 6 months the way we have shown here, but it differs based on the customer sizes and on the way you want it to there, because this all will be triggered based on your data center exit model. So we will reset this ramp up model along with your data center exit model. So let's say your data center refresh is coming on the end of the year, so we will retrofact based on your data center exit so that it stays intact. So you will not lose the data. You will still you can continue for a quarter on the data center, stay intact, capture your data and move this archive data to somewhere, or move this archive data to the to OCA on a different compute. So it all stays with your current data center exit model.
Thanks, Javid. And just one thing that maybe we could jump in here from the earlier question about costs of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure versus other cloud service providers like AWS or Azure. The one thing to consider on the cloud subscription costs is the database cost is a big component of the infrastructure, and Oracle database on other other cloud service providers typically is 50% more cost than Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, just because the number of node or number of cores is going to be higher on the other cloud service providers. The other thing that you may notice is if you're doing a database cloud service, whether it's virtual environments or BareMetal or Exacloud, Oracle has the ability to do rack on those cloud services. Other cloud service providers don't have the same capability to run Oracle database natively in their environment as a cloud service. So the rack and the full gamut of security options are available in Oracle Database Cloud Service for these infrastructures.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. This is an example architecture. So I just built a sample architecture. Oracle is a best cloud service provider when it comes to EBS. Precisely accessing every component of EBS. So Oracle do have a WAF, which is a web application firewall to protect the bots, protect any external traffic. And Oracle do recommend to use a public and private subnet. So public subnets are accessible over internet with a defined security list, and private subnets are within the VCN and with exclusively to whatever we define to access within the private subnets within the VCN. So this is advanced architecture. Again, it can be customized and it can be expanded to multiple region and multiple failed domains within the core services what Oracle offers. So I didn't pictorially display DBaaS and XaaS because I want to show more on security aspects. So to precisely concern, Oracle Cloud is the preferred option for any EBS workloads because Oracle knows best Oracle. Yeah, this tooling slide. So Brent, can you go over this slide?
Sure, I can intro this section and then you can jump into the details. Well, I believe we covered this in the last webinar, but one of the things that we usually do with, in an assessment, and if we're doing any kind of scoping with customers, is kind of run through, where the accelerators can be used and what options there are. Part of that is identifying the OS and kind of the, as is infrastructure. So we know where we're starting and where we need to go. We would identify versions, so we know compatibilities. But the approach we use on moving certain parts of the stack is one of the things Javid's going to cover on one or two of these in detail. So we've got a cloud upgrade or a migration toolkit that we use to help move certain parts of the stack. We've also got an upgrade toolkit that we've developed. And just like, the poll question about who's moved over to 12.2 already, there are reasons that you need to think about that, and your risk is going to go way down if you think about that now instead of waiting till later in the year when support is premier support's going away. Getting on sustaining support is not ideal for sure. Anyway, there are tools that we use for moving utility servers over, where it's listed as tool migration. Those would be things like Rackware or Christie, where we've used to move entire servers over. And if you've got a large environment or multiple environments, sometimes that's handy because it keeps things in sync at the block level. Between the time that you migrated initially and when you do go live. So it can catch all your configuration files and, any kind of other OS updates. In between, like if you're starting your migration, this month and you don't go live until June, and you've got 5 months of updates that may have happened in the meantime. So those block level tool migration tools, or those migration tools, are the things that can help you keep things in sync. And similar to that would be, as far as moving, database. There are any number of tools now that Oracle has available to help with the data migration. The same thing comes into play if you have a large amount of data, whether it's a couple hundred gig or 2 or 10 terabytes of data. It takes a while to move that initially. So trying to squeeze that in right before go live usually is not the recommended approach. Usually what you want to do is do an initial migration and then do incremental updates, periodically through the migration process, and then do your catch up on the migration right before go live. So both of those things we would recommend using through the process. The other thing that Javid was going to cover is the EBS Cloud Manager, a tool provided by Oracle that makes some of the provisioning and ongoing management of the environments easier.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Brent. So EBS Cloud Manager is being offered by Oracle free of cost for any customers moving to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, as long as the target is OCI. So this Cloud Manager, what it does, key features of this Cloud Manager is environment deployment. So it has a one-click provisioning, which can create in a single click database and application, and it has advanced provisioning which can use a load balancing private versus public subnet. So it can do a entire environment deployment in couple of minutes by taking the help of available images within the OCI. So it does a great job by deploying multiple environments rapidly, which used to happen, which used to take a month, days and weeks earlier. And second part of the great feature which EBS Cloud Manager does is a lifecycle management. So you can clone the environment in minutes. You can perform a backup and restore within the OCI, within the EBS Cloud Manager console. Delete the environment. It automatically deletes all the associated backups, which is tagged to the instance, and it can also do the elasticity scale up and scale down, and it can build a DR and an instance refresh, which used to be. This product does great jobs and reduces the stress and strain of apps DBS. Those who used to do a mundane task, building an environment, cloning, refresh. So it all happens in minutes and days within OCI. This has been offered as a complementary for any EBS customers landing on OCI. These are the screenshots being taken from the EBS Cloud Manager within our OCI tenancy. What we have in Infolob, this is I mean, these are the self-explanatory wizards. So you can just pick the name, what you want, and you can take as a fresh install or upgrade the purpose of this install and pick the EBS version. And when you pick the EBS version, it automatically gives option which DBA, which database option, like a 12.1 or 12.2 or 19c, based on the image availability within the Cloud Manager console. Yes, so EBS Cloud Manager also has an automation built in. So as I mentioned, database. So EBS Cloud Manager does the database, application, and load balancer. So it does a simple job. So when you click is one click during I mean with one click it does simple VM provisioning, but with advanced provisioning it also has an option to pick a VM. You can build a rack or rack one within OCI, except the ExaCS, because ExaCS has to be pre-provisioned so that the EBS Cloud Manager. So only exception is ExaCS. ExaCS cannot be provisioned through EBS Cloud Manager, but remaining all device components can be provisioned within this Cloud Manager. So then you go to the certified quarterly patch. You can automatically it picks the latest certified patches, which DBA does not need to interfere and identify download stage. So it automatically picks the latest certified patch and it applies during the provision. Then the last one is by default, any database provisioned by Cloud Manager are a TD enabled. So it comes by default by TD enabled. So when you provision, it comes with the TD keys. So when you bring your EBS to OCI, you remove these keys, whatever has been provisioned, and you bring your own keys. And going forward, you use your own keys with the TD. But the setup and configuration will be precisely done in a very rapid way. So that reduces a lot of stuff, and it automates many of those challenging tasks which used to take days and weeks. I mean, the second part of it is the lifecycle management. So it optimizes the entire EBS environment structure, environment, starting with the security list, starting with the database, application, middleware, and the last one, the load balancers. So you have an option to create your own backups. You use this backup to re-provision equal environments within the EBS Cloud Manager, then delete the environment, automatically deletes all the associated stuff whichever is targeted to the instance, and you can maintain this managing the lifecycle within your current data center model. It could be a hassle. So this lifecycle management is a kind of you can do this lifecycle management in data center world, but maybe you might be using many tools, many proprietary tools within, but in OCI it comes complementary. A customer has to pay only the underlying storage and the compute services. With remaining all comes as innovation. So customer avails this, and as soon as the new releases comes to Cloud Managers, they can just run upgrade scripts within that Cloud Manager console or on using CLI and avail all the new innovations. Yeah, this is the monitoring part of it. So a customer can still use the Enterprise Manager 13C as a standalone and install or migrate or use standalone mode on OCI and still manage the way you like. And if any customer has application management suites, you can certainly bring those management suites along with your 13C and still use as you are currently using. Or the best option where Oracle is pushing their innovation is a management cloud. So what happens in this management cloud is Oracle does internal product management. It automatically translates. This is a SaaS offering, and most likely it is a customer driven innovation. So you will get this automation with no cost with a service offering. So you just need to subscribe the servicing and keep paying the subscription. All underlying infrastructure are complementary, and you don't need to manage any infrastructure as storage underlying. So They can start with the about 2 and start transitioning to OMC as they are ready to adopt the cloud subscriptions. This is an upgrade toolkit. Infolob has a proprietary upgrade toolkit which can analyze your current EBS release and come up with an assessment. Again, it does a segregation. What kind of objects does it? Compares the standard versus the customization. It gives a holistic report. What you have the standard and where the deviations been, where you have extended any customization, which could trigger with a breaking point when we upgrade. So it gives a holistic view and remediation plan. So it also gives a remediation plan how it can be remediated if the customer has a custom code within the PLSQL or within these forms, or if certain forms are going to be outdated with a newer UI in 12.2. So what action need to be taken care? So, and again, the last migration planning, it gives a migration planning about by seeing all this stuff background in the tool runs it, and it gives a remediation, then migration planning. So a setup instruction, how this can be migrated, and this all can be visible through a product dashboard. So product dashboard has reports to run time to time to compare with your source and target, and it will be very helpful for the customers. Where are they stands in terms of Cambly, and how many Camblys are going to be impacted, how those can be retrofactored or retrofit in the new releases. Anything to chip, Brent?
No, that's all good.
Yeah, back to you.
Sure. Thanks, Javid. Good job. One thing that we mentioned on the last webinar is that we've got an approach to do your cloud roadmap assessment. It's essentially, typically outcomes would be, in one of 3 areas. One would be around strategy, one would be around project planning, and one would be around sustainment. On most of them are based around project planning, which would include kind of a environment assessment, some kind of to-be architecture, and then a related bill of material and implementation plan. And this is new since the last webinar, but we were able to get approval to do this for free through February. We would normally charge $15,000 for doing that. It will be a couple people across a couple weeks to get through the implementation planning and that part of it. What we ask for customers on this, if there is no monetary cost, but there is a cost of your time. And in order for this to be successful and impactful, is that we'll do some interviews both on the technical, the IT side, and also on the business side, and arranging those resources and make sure people are available to provide the right inputs is important. We've got an approach and a process to go through on that. We can share kind of a recommended schedule on what inputs we would ask for in advance. But if anyone's interested, definitely reach out to us after the call, or put something in the chat. But if you haven't done an upgrade and you're looking at doing a hardware refresh, that's an ideal time to do this, and we're happy to help you through that process right now. Yeah, I think we can go on, Javid.
Yeah, I think the last poll question.
Yeah, so just a little background on this. Of the survey data that was provided in advance for the folks on the phone and others that registered, more than 60% responded that performance in the new environment is a primary consideration. And if you look back a couple years when people were looking to move their applications to the cloud, 3 or 4 years, performance was a concern, and also security was a concern, because most people weren't as had as good an education of what's involved with cloud infrastructure. But today, those things are reasons to move to the cloud, and the majority of the customers that we've talked to understand that, and they're building that into their justification, that we get increased performance, we get flexibility on how to scale up or scale down or scale out for other environments. We also get, the benefit of a enterprise class data center and all the security constraints that go with that. So one of the things that we're ask is, can you see ways that Infolob can help meet your goal of moving to the cloud, based on this discussion? And the purpose isn't for us to badger you, but for feedback on us. Did we cover these points? So that's the point of this question. And then we'll roll into Q&A and the wrap up.
Everyone should have the poll question in front of them now, and I'll be closing it in just a few seconds.
Good deal. We appreciate the feedback there. And the last webinar we did, I think there were 8 survey questions we asked ahead of time. We shared quite a few of those in the webinar, and those have been valuable for our customer discussions around peer feedback. So we appreciate you providing those, and I know that James is sending out those thank yous for people participating in those surveys. So it's helpful to us and it's helpful to our customers. So I think we're moving into Q&A. You're welcome to type things into the chat and we can answer things that way, or you can raise your hand and Seama can unmute. But we'll pause here for a couple minutes to see if there are questions that have come up on the call that we need to address. And then we can run into, so one question is, can you share the details of who to contact? So yes, Javid, go ahead and advance to the next slide and we'll take care of that while people are, thinking of other questions. So you can reach out to Javid or myself, and then also we'll share after the call in the follow-up from James on contacts for 2 of our account managers, Seama, who's hosting you today, and also Mike Haas, both on the commercial side and public sector side. And Rich Rubens is on the call also. So we'll share all of that contact info in the follow-up email. So Seama, maybe you can kind of wrap things up here.
All right.
Summarize.
Absolutely. So I just want to first and foremost say thank you again to everybody who attended today. We duly appreciate it. We wanted to just cover what the EBS suite would look like when you transition over to Oracle Cloud. Wanted to especially thank Brent and Javid for expertly showcasing this content for us. And hopefully what you were able to take away today is not only the ease at which you can migrate your EBS application over to the cloud, but what you can do with it once it's there, the capabilities, functionalities, security, and more importantly, cost savings that you would see, especially in a €5 total cost of ownership model. As Brent mentioned, if you have any extra questions, please feel free to reach out to them at the email addresses you see on the slide before you. And we'll be following up with you as well for extra contacts for account managers like myself, if you have extra questions. But at this point, if you have any immediate Q&A questions that you would like us to address, so we still have a few minutes, be more than happy to address them in the chat now.
So we really appreciate everyone joining today, and hopefully you got at least one thing out of your time on this call. We will certainly keep you abreast of upcoming webinars in the series. The next couple will be around analytics and integration cloud. And then And the fourth webinar will be around database security and what all is included in the cloud. And there are a couple other ones that are kind of in the works. So we'll also have a session around Apex and Application Express with Oracle Database. So if you're particularly interested in any of those topics, feel free to reach out to any of us or James when he sends out the follow-up. And then the last one, we'll be doing a follow-up session on EBS migrations specific to public sector. So if you're interested in joining that, it'll be similar to this session, but with some of the focus on government security and accreditation and the cloud service provider. So we really appreciate you joining, and look forward to talking to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week, and Happy New Year.